So 2 new Pokemon games just got announced, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and from what I've seen, the reception of the 2 announced games has been fairly mixed. A lot of the core Pokemon fanbase isn't too fond of the new announcement, saying that the games look too much like the mobile games, and not like the proper handheld Pokemon games, and it's easy to see why. Pokemon GO managed to hold everyone's attention for about 2 months before dropping off the map like a ton of bricks, and the core fanbase doesn't really care for it that much. But I kinda like Pokemon GO. Although I like the mainline games as well, I feel like they've introduced way too many crazy mechanics and just odd quirks to the Pokemon formula that don't quite work for me. Whereas Pokemon GO brings it back to that original, just simple formula, simple Pokemon designs, nothing too crazy. And I think it worked out really well as well with all these new mechanics of exploration. It was just like a brand new adventure to play. For some, Pokemon GO might have been a bit too simple, but for most people it was just a nice fresh start to get back into Pokemon. It had easy to understand levels, just the basic 150 Pokemon, and some basic IV or individual value stuff behind the scenes, which was easy enough to understand. Obviously Pokemon GO's biggest feature was the fact you had to wander around looking for Pokemon in the real world, like actually moving your legs and going outside, looking down at your phone and crashing into stuff. Ugh. Being a mobile game also added plenty of other strange quirks and stuff that people didn't quite anticipate. One of them being battery management. Pokemon GO drained battery incredibly quickly. You either had to plan your journey so that you would stop by a McDonald's or a cafe or something like that. Or alternatively, a lot of people use these power banks to charge their phone on the go. When the game launched, these sold out everywhere immediately. I think the sales went up by about 90% when the game was big. And yeah, it was very rare to see someone without one of these when the game was big, because pretty much everyone was playing the game. And especially on the older mobiles and iPhones where the batteries were not very good, you're talking about a couple of hours of playing the game without one of these. The worst feeling in Pokemon GO was walking home on 5% battery and then seeing some sort of rare Pokemon on your tracker. By the way, the tracker didn't really work at launch at all. It often crashed the game or didn't really show what you was looking for, and then eventually was just removed entirely from the game and then added back to the game and was nowhere near as good as it was intended to be. I think it's fixed now, but it's probably a bit too late. But all I know is that when I was playing Pokemon GO, it was almost impossible to have it work, and more often than not, it was more frustrating than useful. Another thing I found with the game was that everyone in it was a real person, so when you were taking gyms or looking at gyms, that was all real people taking them. One time I took a gym, and I took it out with my huge Chad Pokemon, and these kids came over. I saw them in the distance, like on their bikes, and they were like coming towards me quite quickly, saying like, "Who's taken our gym? Who's done it?" And I ran away because I was scared. But it's the kind of thing you have to expect when you're taking a group of 14-year-olds gym, that they're going to come and find you and take you out with bats or whatnot. I don't know what they had. Didn't stay around long enough to find out. I remember feeling pretty proud of myself because I took over this particularly difficult gym, and then this guy came over and he had this like Pokemon hat or shirt or so, and just he looked like an actual Pokemon trainer. He was a way higher level than me in the game, and his Pokemon just were outclassed mine entirely, and he just beat the gym immediately, like he just swamped through it. Afterwards I got chatting to him and he said that he knew a couple of good places in my town to catch rare Pokemon, and in particular there was a place where loads of Dratini would spawn. You needed to catch a lot of Dratini to be able to catch a Dragonite or evolve into a Dragonite, so obviously I went straight over there, and he was right. Stuff like this was why I thought Pokemon GO was such a great game, because the world was real and everyone in it was real, so all the people you interacted with were real. It wasn't like a game where you could mute people or just turn the game off. It wasn't NPCs or CPUs you were interacting with, it was real people. The people around you were just as into the game as you were. It was truly one of the most unique experiences I've ever had playing a game, and I don't think any game is going to come close to it anytime soon. Of course, like all good things, it had to be ruined. The game had constant issues with disconnectings, and a lot of complaints about the games were often ignored. A lot of fixes and features have come since then, but it's way too late. The game also had a huge issue with hackers and bots playing the game. You could just download a fake GPS onto your phone and then just travel to New York, or London, or anywhere really, and you would get all the best Pokemon from the comfort of your home. And although yes, technically you're still playing the game, I tried this out once and it was just way too boring. The best part of Pokemon GO was travelling around and being part of a community. The GPS spoofing stuff was very lonely and just kind of boring. It's just you on an endless green map, clicking things on a screen, as opposed to interacting with people and talking to people about the game and actually travelling your local town or even other towns. Again, a lot of these problems have been dealt with, but it's really what killed the game for me. I remember beating a gym only to have it immediately taken back by some guy sat at his desk spoofing, whilst I was out at the actual gym, and that magic of interacting with people was just gone. Slowly but surely, everyone turned to botting in my town because you simply couldn't find anything that wasn't a Rattata or a Pidgey, so everyone just set their GPSs to the big cities and caught what they wanted. The game just kinda dried up eventually as well, seeing as the gyms were taken over by spoofers and botters. The only thing really left to do in the game was to collect Pokemon, which depending on your location was either hard or impossible. When they first showed Pokemon GO, I think we all had visions of travelling to different places to find rare Pokemon there, like maybe going up a mountain and it would have Articuno on the top of it or something like that. Or even something as simple as going through the woods and leading to more grass types, and maybe more electric Pokemon in the big cities. It would force people to travel around to get a variety, and instead it was just like small towns get Pidgeys and Rattatas, big cities get everything. There was no trading or traditional battling either, meaning even when you collected the Pokemon, you couldn't really do anything with them. Nowadays Pokemon GO is a lot more fleshed out. There's challenges in the game now which let you find rare Pokemon and collect items, and gyms function differently as well too. You can also do things called raids, which I don't really understand, but essentially you fight a super leveled Pokemon, and I think you can team up on said Pokemon with a team of people as well. Niantic have also recently come out with a friend list option, and for some reason they're using friend codes, so you might as well just ignore it because friend codes suck and everyone hates them. But you can train in Pokemon GO now, so that's pretty cool. Pokemon GO was a wild time and I'm kind of sad it's over. I always look back on the weird misadventures I had in the game quite fondly, but now that the sun's back out and with all these new updates, maybe the game will have a bit of a resurgence. It'll be interesting to see what the new Pokemon game's like as well, and how they'll be received. Will the core fanbase eventually accept the Pokemon GO stuff? Will the GO fanbase start buying Switches for the new mainline games? It's hard to say, but at least we can say that Pokemon's been more interesting for the first time in a long while. But for now, Pokemon GO is done, so it's time to say goodbye.